Hey everyone, welcome to episode 13 of the Resident Blade Devlog series. Although things have been pretty quiet for me on YouTube, I have a lot of new exciting updates and features to share with you. Also, make sure to watch to the end of this episode for a special announcement about the game. I finally got around to making a start screen. The music I came up with for this scene has some Blade Runner vibes, and I think it fits the sci-fi futuristic setting pretty well. The track sticks to the 6 pitches of the Prometheus scale, which are the same ones that the player can tune the Resonant Blade to in the game. I added a short dialogue cutscene to the subway area. As you descend down the stairs, the senior science officer, Sid, radios in and briefly tells you what's going on and what your objective is. I also made some updates to the dialogue font and shader, and also added some character portraits and a new sound effect for the unfolding text. I added a second NPC to this area, just to kind of liven it up a little bit. Whenever you get into talking range, a little chat bubble also appears now to indicate that you can engage in conversation. I updated the lighting for this area too, and threw in a couple of randomly flickering lights. I placed some 3D environmental sounds in this area for the lights and the fire barrel. The player heads-up display got a much-needed facelift. It shows the HP, energy, currently selected resonant frequency, and the charges on the blade when you parry an enemy attack. I also made some basic dynamic interactions for the HUD. When you take damage, the HP bar will flash white. The HP and energy bars flash to a dark, less saturated color when below 25%. When the frequency scanner is damaged, the HUD shader distorts and flashes. When you deplete the energy bar completely, it flashes until it fills back up past a third of the way. The player sprite also flashes and your move speed is cut in half until reaching that 1/3 marker. When filling up the 3 parry charges with red, yellow, and blue, in no particular order, the player lights up and the 3 charges flash, indicating that the blade beam attack is ready. Ledge collision and falling in holes has been revamped and improved. The player can walk or dash on and off platforms while keeping the correct sprite layering so that they're drawn behind or in front of the terrain. I made a couple of new robot enemies, snipers and swordfighters. The snipers fire long-range projectiles that can be parried and absorbed. The swordfighters can only engage in close combat, and have a really powerful downward swing that takes off a big chunk of health. Their attacks can also be parried. Engaging the frequency scanner will allow the player to see and hear their enemy's weakness. I updated the sprite for the security turret enemy. Before, it was just a flat circle with a cannon that rotated around the base. That didn't fit the 2D top-down perspective. The new version has 8 sprites that shift based on its rotational direction to the player. Its projectiles are more powerful than the snipers, and also knock back the player. I added some blood effects for both the player and some of the enemies. Using Unity's particle system, I made the blood force, number of particles, and particle lifetime scale with the damage given, and added small amounts of randomness to keep things varied. I used 2 particle emitters, one for the blood spray, and then one for the blood pooling afterwards. I added some death animations for the snipers and the swordfighters. I divided their sprites into individual body parts that appear and explode outwards upon death. I also made the body parts interact with ledges so that they can fall in holes. For the swordfighters, I made a separate death animation that has a smaller chance of occurring. The player's death animation is a little more dramatic. It has more blood, time slows down, and a few extra sound effects to really emphasize it. I made some destructible crates that the player can break and also use as cover. I also made some health pickups that the player can find from enemies, destructible crates, and loot boxes. The smaller one heals for 10% of the player's health, and the larger one heals for 25%. I put together a couple of new puzzle rooms that require the player to use their frequency scanner to solve. Before you can solve the puzzles though, you have to take out a wave of enemies. Use your scanner in the first room to see the crystal's resonant color. Hitting the crystals with the matching frequency will activate a switch on the door and unlock it. For the second room, the crystals are colorless, but they still vibrate at different speeds. You have to listen to the crystal's frequency and then match it with the resonant blade's frequency. I made some new music for the underground area and for the first boss. The ambient music dynamically transitions into the boss music when the player enters into the boss room. I added in a help window showing the controls for an Xbox 360 controller and also a keyboard and mouse setup. Alright, that's it for this episode. So, moving on to the announcement. I'll be releasing the first playable demo of Resonant Blade on June 17th. I'm getting a few more family and friends to test it out first, and then I'll start working on an actual build. It'll be a relatively short demo that includes one linear section, followed by some open-ended exploration of the city area. Right now I'm planning on releasing it on GameJolt and maybe itch.io, but that may change. As always guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like, subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment below. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.